Okay, so we've done most of the 2024 preview stuff, but there's one thing left. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another 2024 preview, guys. Today, one of the big ones, we're going to go ahead and look ahead to some of the most anticipated books that I want to read coming out next year. This is an interesting list to make because I always feel like I'm going to forget something and there's going to be some big surprise that I didn't think was coming out next year and it ends up doing that. But of what I can recollect here, these are the ones that I'm going to talk about the most. Now, this is going to be kind of divided into two parts. The first one is books that we have had confirmed are coming out in 2024, barring some major setback. And then we'll talk about some of those books that could surprise us and come out next year, but I would be really rather surprised to do it. So I've already looked ahead to the new series that I'm going to be starting next year. That was a lot of fantasy series. If you guys are primarily here for the fantasy stuff, a lot of that is new fantasy series, as I call in permanent ink, as in I'm going to start at least book number 1 in that book next year. There are a couple exceptions because, I run out of time sometimes and they don't happen, but I won't be starting any other new series before the ones on that list. And I've also looked ahead to some of those standalones and palate cleansers, and those are books that aren't necessarily standalones and or what you would define as a palate cleanser, but they're the ones that I'm going to use, dang it. So those are the ones that I'm going to be looking at. They're a little bit less of fantasy. There are some other genres in there, sci-fi, horror, westerns, things like that. So all that stuff out of the way, all that's really left, guys, let's talk about these most anticipated. So I'm not going to spoil you on anything. I'm not going to read the synopses or anything of these. I'm just going to tell you why I have them on here and let you kind of go ahead and decide if you want to jump on board for those. First up, guys, is The Trials of Empire by Richard Swan. This is book number 3 in his Empire of the Wolf series. Now, full disclosure, I'm not going to lie to you. There were some things in Tyranny of Faith, some little side plots that didn't really work for me. But I did say when I did that quick little 1-minute review of it, I did say it's some stuff I feel like after we have book 3, I can kind of see if this stuff makes a little more sense for why I put it in here. There is somewhat of a forced romance that I was not a fan of, but the guy is a great storyteller. I like how he's just kind of going for it. I kind of like the Eldritch kind of vibes to it. I like how he's really changed some things up. He's subverted some expectations, and I'm there for his characters. His character work is very great, and I want to see how he does conclude this series. So Richard is a gentleman and a scholar. I've had him on the channel before, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with. But that one, I think, is coming out. The last two have come out in February, so I'd imagine this one's probably coming out in February as well. I should have checked all these dates before I started this, but that would mean being well prepared. And, I can never, ever say that I am that. Next up, if you guys don't know by now, I have been a champion of Christopher Ruocchio since, 2020, I think, is when I read Empire of Silence. Got a boatload of people to jump on board for that, and a lot of them are still here, and they don't have to wait as long as some of us have for Disquiet Gods. This is Sun Eater number 6, the penultimate story in the Sun Eater saga. And I don't think if you've read any Christopher Ruocchio, I feel like before it used to be, hey, I'm really trying to tell people, give this guy a chance. Now it feels like just about everybody's gotten on board. And now it's like, are you caught up yet before Disquiet Gods comes out? So Christopher is actually, he actually left my Discord like a couple of weeks ago because he likes to focus on writing. So I was like, yeah, go on, get out of here. Who needs you? But anyway, no, Christopher, professional. I mean, that guy takes this very seriously. And I know a lot of people are kind of apprehensive about starting series that aren't complete yet. The guy's going to be writing 7 books in, I think, 7 years. And these are monstrous books. But Sun Eater, guys, is just so incredibly well written. And the thing is I'm not like a prose guy, but even I can take a step back and be like, that's a beautiful string of words right there. And you will find yourself doing that with Sun Eater about every third sentence. It's really amazing what he's able to do. So if you're really looking for a bit of like imagine the Red Rising books, but you want like a little bit more deep character study over the pew pew spaceships. Now look, this has that, and I think that Red Rising has those character moments too, but if you wanted to kind of focus a little more on that and a little less of the epic space opera kind of stuff, this has all that kind of wrapped into more of a human element where you're really dissecting what makes Hadrian Marlowe go. So it's a great series. Again, I don't feel like I have to sell anybody on this point because it feels like everybody at least has it on their radar. And now my guy Petrick's actually finally doing these books. I feel like a lot of you have been like, okay, well, Mike's seal of approval wasn't quite enough, but now that I got Mike and Petrick's, okay, maybe I'll do it. But I'm just glad More people are giving Christopher Ruocchio a chance. That one comes out first quarter of 2024, I do believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's when that one does come out. How about some Brandon Sanderson, guys? It's been a while since I have read anything from Brandon Sanderson. Not really. I read Tress of the Emerald Sea, but it was, I think before that, it was like, I hadn't read a Brandon Sanderson book since Rhythm of War. Well, guys, it's finally time. We get those 3-year breaks between Stormlight books. This is going to be Stormlight Archive number 5. Now, it's the working title is Knights of Wind and Truth. I don't know if that's going to be the final title for the book or not. He might have actually confirmed that's what it is between then, which he first said that, and now. I don't know. I don't follow his weekly updates as well as I should or well as I used to. Because it isn't really like Brandon Sanderson's falling out of favor for me or something like that. It's just I haven't made him like automatic reading like I used to. Now, I've been well on record in saying that I think 99% of everything I've read by Brandon Sanderson I've really liked. I really just still stick to the Cosmere stuff. I haven't really went outside the Cosmere. And I'm not going to lie, I wish he would just buckle down and finish Stormlight Archive instead of these 800 other series. But I understand the guy's got a process, and he writes really fast. It's hard for me, just some dude with Wi-Fi, to tell the Lord Ruler, Brandon Sanderson, how he should go about his business. I'm just saying, if I'm being selfish, I wish he would scrap all this other stuff. Forget about all these side stories that aren't in the Cosmere. Forget about Mistborn. Forget about writing another Launcher's book. Just give me Stormlight Archive. That'd be really, really great. Well, book number 5 sounds like it's going to be a little bit more of what I was looking for, because Rhythm of War kind of let me down a little bit, but I felt like the first 3 books were great because they had great flashback characters. And in this one, the flashback character is going to be Szeth, who I think a lot of us have wanted to know more about, because the guy gets like 1 sentence per book, it seems like, but you always want to know more about. So getting to know more about his backstory is going to be exactly what I wanted. And this is supposed to be kind of the end of this arc. He wants to do like 2 arcs of 5 books each. And I'm not going to say necessarily that this is where I walk away, but what I'm saying is the pace that he's taking to write this series, I'm not sure I'll live that long. So this kind of almost feels like the end for me. But yeah, Stormlight Archive, still one of my favorite fantasy series that is ongoing, and this will be no different. And now that I know I'm getting that character that I really, really want to know more about, I think we're going to have a return to form right up there with the first 3 books in the series, which I do really, really adore. How about this one, guys? James S.A. Corey, that's Daniel Abraham, Ty Frank. I am going to be finishing up The Expanse probably in a couple of weeks. I plan to read books 8 and 9 back to back here very, very soon. I'm finishing up Pillars of the Earth, and I'm going to read book number 8, and at the beginning of December, I'm going to read book number 9. That way I can kind of tie those 2 together as one kind of long epic. I'm very, very excited, and I have said that no matter what they write next, I will be reading it. Well, they did announce Mercy of the Gods comes out next year. That's book number 1 in their series called The Captive's War. I think this was just going to be a trilogy, so we ain't got to worry about another 9-book series or whatever. At least that's what I heard when they first announced it. They said it's very, very highly inspired by Dune. So again, of course, you're getting my attention there. But again, these 2 together just write some wonderful science fiction. I think The Expanse has been one of the most consistent series I've ever read. Because you think when you try to pick out like your least favorite book in that series, and you're still like, still not bad, So I think that The Expanse has been incredibly consistent, and I think if they've got a focused story with just a trilogy, I think it's going to be just incredible. And I know nothing about it. They've just earned my trust as a working tandem at this point. And I can't wait to see what they do come up with. So obviously, you use the Dune word, and that's going to get my attention, because there's no other guys I know out there that feel like they are feeding off of each other better at all. Because I feel like there's lots of these like team ups and stuff like that, and I never really like it. But these 2, whenever they team up, it seems like magic things do happen. And I say that without even reading books 8 or 9 of The Expanse yet. Here's the deal. I'm not worried. The only thing I'm worried about is I won't be able to pick a favorite Expanse book when I am done. So yeah, again, they have earned my trust, as has the last one on the list here, guys. This is Of Empires and Dust, book number 4, and The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. You guys have kind of watched that evolution this year of me being like, I don't really know how I feel about self-published authors, to being like, I got to read more self-published authors. And a big reason is because Ryan is just a badass. Not only is this probably my most anticipated book of next year, this might be my favorite ongoing fantasy series right now. It really has just kind of launched up to the top of this list because it's just an incredible story. And what I tell everybody is, you go to book 1 and everyone will have all these criticisms of, oh, it's derivative of this, it feels like that, And I tell them, just keep going. Remember all you guys that always defend Wheel of Time and you're like, oh, well, you really got to get to book 2 because book 1 was a hat tip to something else. Why can't Ryan Coghill do the same thing? I feel like that. You get to book 2 and your face is going to be melted off with what he does in this series, because I don't feel like there's anything that's really close in Dragon Fantasy right now with what Ryan is doing. This story right here is what I have been waiting for since I haven't been getting any Song of Ice and Fire books for, half my life now. It seems like the last not half my life. I'm older than that. But I got to think back when A Dance with Dragons came out. And I don't want to make this a thing where I just shoot on George, because I love George. I do love George. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, my first kid wasn't born when A Dance with Dragons came out. He's in 6th grade now, So yeah, it's been quite a while, and I kind of felt like I needed something to kind of fill that hole for some Dragon Fantasy. And I want you to understand, I'm not saying this series is like A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm just saying if you give this series a go and you read more than the first book, it's going to scratch that itch a little bit. So I did a 30-minute long why you should read about Bound and the Broken not that long ago, and you can tell I love this series, and I'm anxious for what Ryan writes next. He's writing wonderful novellas and stuff, but that's just a taste of what this world is. But unlike a lot of these other ones, when you got these side story stuff, his novellas actually feel like almost mandatory reading, because they do fill out so many questions that you want answered, but they're also not going to take away from the story if you do not read them. But yeah, this one, I think he wrote the other day that he's already at 20,000 words, and now he's like 12% done. So it's going to be a big, big boy, just like Of War and Ruin was, and I cannot wait. So Empires and Dust most likely is my most anticipated book of 2024, with a little caveat that I'll get to here. Now, I've got to do these mentions, as I call it, because these are books that either I do not believe are coming out next year, or we don't know for certain are coming out next year. But I want to mention them, because if I don't, I know someone will drop in the comments and be like, what about this book? Look, first up, obviously, Red Rising is my jam. That's my thing. I love Red Rising. It's amazing. Red God's not coming out next year, guys. I know a lot of people are hanging on to hope that Red God's going to come out next year. I had Pierce Brown on this channel, and I point blank asked him, and he said, I don't even know when we talked. We talked like back in May or June. He said, best case scenario, I turn it into my publisher December. It's going to be plus a year turnaround. So first draft, second draft, final draft, he's got to go through all that process, and then the turnaround. He told me, best case scenario, it's going to be spring of 25. So that's why I don't have Red God on here. So I hate to destroy your dreams if you guys are feeling like you are getting Red God next year, but it's not going to happen. And I think we'll be better for it, because, we waited that long for Lightbringer because he wanted to make sure he got it right, and he got it right, So I trust him as long as it takes. Obviously, I want it too, but it's not coming in 2024. Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. It's been kind of radio silence with John Gwynne, understandably, as he's had a family tragedy and stuff, and I never would want to rush him. But I am very anxious to see the conclusion to the Bloodsworn trilogy, which is going to be Fury of the Gods. I figured we would have at least had a cover reveal at this point if that book was coming out in 2024. Don't know at all. Wonder if Will and Ed can kind of chime in on that, or if they're even talking about that. It's just I don't know. And again, I want John to take as long as he needs, obviously. But yeah, of course, that would be on this list. I mean, I everything I've read by John Gwynne, I've loved up to this point. So I'm excited to see how he finishes that series, and then obviously start pestering about when's your next series coming out. I am hoping he returns to the Banished Lands someday. Joe Abercrombie, you guys know that's my guy, right? Well, his next book is called Devils. And we kind of haven't had very much updates about it. He's talked about writing on it. But as far as when it comes to when we should expect to see this, a lot of crickets. I think someone did get in touch with a German publisher or something like that. And they said the plan right now is for May of 25, 26, and 27. So we're still a ways away from that trilogy, because he likes to write the entire thing before he's done, make his corrections as he goes along, and release those the same time each year for 3 years straight, and I respect that method. The Strength of the Few, James Islington. I did read Will of the Many this year. He released Lycanius kind of back to back to back, so I think a lot of people kind of assumed he was doing that here. Last update he put out, he did say that, again, kind of similar to what I told you, but Pierce Brown said, where best case scenario, he's done with the first draft or the final draft in December, and it's usually about a year turnaround. So I'm expecting that to also be pushed to 2025 of some sort, unless something amazing happens. Because again, guys, I feel like it is a good 12, 13 month turnaround when they turn in a final draft. And I feel like if you haven't even gotten a cover reveal or a solid release date from the author, I wouldn't bank on it when we're in November of the previous year. So yeah, Strength of the Few, I imagine that'll be early 25 as well. 12 months, Jim Butcher, that's Dresden Files number 18. I don't think we've gotten any news from Jim outside of him saying how long it was going to take him to write it. You know, he said it was going to take him, I think, like 16 weeks. He'd probably be able to write it and be done with it. So I don't believe we've heard anything more. I'll have to drop in on the Dresden Files podcast, guys, and see if they have more information on that one. But I would not expect to see that next year. But, you know, Jim did come out of nowhere with Peace Talks and Battleground. You know, it just kind of that date just kind of came out of nowhere, and it wasn't a year turnaround. So I think he's that type who likes to hold on to stuff and be like, look, I don't want to announce it and then tell you got to wait longer. I think he likes to wait until things are in the process and then say, okay, yeah, you're going to have it in 4 or 5 months. I think that's just the type of author he is, and I appreciate that. I really, really do. So I wouldn't be holding my breath for that one in 24, but, you know, hey, maybe Jim could surprise us. I need some fuego in my life because unlike all of you probably, this is the first time I've had to wait for Dresden Files, and it is quite unfun. Let's put it that way. Unfun. Empire of the Damned, guys. Look, I was lucky enough to have read Empire of the Damned. Jay Kristoff did send me a review copy. So without that, yes, Empire of the Damned would be my most anticipated book of 24 because I loved Empire of the Vampire. All I can tell you guys is I loved Empire of the Damned. But, you know, if I didn't have it on here, the top comment would probably be, yo, where's Empire of the Damned? Yes, of course, Empire of the Damned would be one of them, but I was lucky enough to have gotten a copy of that already. But yes, I would say that Empire of the Damned is going to be the most anticipated book by many of the viewers of this channel. So I'm just confident you guys are going to love it. I was worried myself about a little bit of a sophomore slump or middle book syndrome, even though he hasn't confirmed it's going to be 3 books yet. But very good, very good. I think it stands shoulder to shoulder with Empire of the Vampire, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about it. But that's really what I got. If there's something else coming, I know I watched Petrick's video this morning of his most anticipated books, and there was a lot of them on there like I didn't know, or I don't really have in my plans, but I know Petrick, he will sell a lot of them to me, and then I'll end up putting them on my 2024 list. So I definitely recommend you guys go over there if you're wanting some more things you know, I probably didn't talk about. But yeah, I'm sure this list will grow for sure once I realize some things that I didn't know that I wanted to read are coming out. But as of right now, those 5 are the most anticipated, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 that you know, either I've already read or I'm not sure are going to come out in 2024. So what about you guys? What are some things you're looking forward to in 2024? Are there going to be any of these here? I hope that you'll be reading some of these, and hopefully we can read some of them together, because I'm not automatic with a lot of these publishers when it comes to getting review copies, and that's fine by me because, you know, sure, I love to read some things early. Who wouldn't? But I also would like to share the excitement and the adventure with you guys at the same time. So guys, drop in the comments, let me know what your most anticipated books of 2024 are, and I will talk to you there.